Brothers and sisters, it's great to be with you and to share a few words today on the great feast of the great, one of the great early, you could say, apostolic fathers of the church, St Irenaeus, who was martyred for his faith. Just first of all to say that today, because I'm spending this month in Venice with the Dominican brothers trying to work on my Italian, when I arrived here I pleasantly discovered that Padua is only about 20-25 minutes away. So I, in between class time, I make a little trip out to visit the tomb of, first of all, St Anthony of Padua, who my own mom prayed a lot to for me for my conversion. She prayed a novena to St Anthony of Padua, and St Anthony really is known for the saint of lost things. I'm sure many of us have called upon him, but really originally he was known to call upon for the intercession of conversion of souls, and it was really about lost souls that he then became known for lost things. So he's also a doctor of the church, and so it's really important to not forget that part of him, because sometimes we can just see him as the statue or the one who finds us things, but see, he's a doctor of the church, of a brilliant saint, one of the early Franciscans, early generation after Francis himself, and was known as a wonder worker, a miracle worker, as we know. I very much kept St Anthony Parish in Pitti Valley in my mind as I prayed at his tomb, and for all of you in that parish. I was baptized there, so I have a particular love for that parish, and it was my parish for so many years. So St Anthony is also known as a tremendous preacher, because he had a gift, a golden tongue. He had a gift to preach, and said that even when people didn't listen to him, he preached, and the fish came up and would listen to him preach. So it was really beautiful to be at his tomb. And then I took the opportunity to go to the great church, Saint Justinia, where the great martyr Saint Justin of Padua is buried, and also the great apostle Saint Luke, who I love. I've been in the habit of the last few years of just meditating very slowly on the Gospel of Luke from beginning to end. Don't know when I'll finish it, maybe in a few years' time. Going very slowly, just word by word, just really allowing the mystery of God to the mystery of the Word to touch my heart. And a friend of mine who's a priest gave me that inspiration, so I share that with you as well. And so for me it was like an unexpected joy to know that St Luke was buried. Sorry.
Dall'11 al 15 luglio, per lavori di potenziamento infrastrutturale nella stazione di Venezia Mestre, alcuni treni subiranno modifiche con limitazioni di percorso.
So I'm just on a short train between Venice and Padua. And so anyway, so St Luke is just an extraordinary, it was such a pleasant surprise for me to know that I could go and be at the tomb of St Luke, this great apostle who was the apostle that his gospel is amazing, because it has the infancy narratives, and it also has stories like the prodigal son in such a rich way, and his resurrection accounts are just beautiful of Jesus. So St Luke is just really amazing. We get so much about John the Baptist as well in Luke in the beginning. Of course, his father Zacharias. We get the Magnificat, we get the Benedictus psalm that we pray in the morning prayer of the church. So important. And of course I prayed for you at his tomb. So let's switch to St Irenaeus. He's really important as well. So St Irenaeus, his feast is today, he was martyred, but St Irenaeus is an important link for us to the early church, because St Irenaeus knew, in his biography, in his own writings, he testifies that he met St Polycarp, and he met him as a young boy and heard him preach, and maybe others of that generation of St Polycarp. Now, why is St Polycarp important? Well, for many things. One is that actually the early Christians started to venerate his body and his relics. So the whole cult of relics came about from that, like realizing that there was something sacred about the bodies of the saints, and God uses them as instruments of grace or to help people make intercession. So, but more importantly, St Polycarp was also the disciple of St John the Beloved, who was tradition says died in Ephesus, where he had lived with Our Lady Mary after Jesus entrusted Mary to St John at the foot of the cross. So St Polycarp knew firsthand St John, and so St Irenaeus, you could say, third generation after Christ. that he knew someone who knew the apostles. So there's this proof of kind of the direct link of tradition already starting in the early church, and they entrusted to each other what they learned from those who they learned, and they took this so seriously, and we take this so seriously still today in the church, that we speak about apostolic tradition as a heart of the sign of the church that Christ founded, is this unbroken tradition from bishop to bishop to bishop to bishop, all guided by the charism of St. Peter through the papacy, and going right back to the early apostles. And so St. Irenaeus is very important in his life, but he was also a great defender against a lot of distortions of Christianity that were starting to spin off from the tradition that was handed on from the apostles themselves, that treasury of truth that the church kept as it had received it, not invented it, but as it had received it. And so he would also defend the faith with a lot of arguments of philosophy, etc. He's probably best known for one of his quotes, that the glory of God is a man fully alive. Now, what he means is that someone fully alive in God needs to be full of grace, full of truth, full of following the gospel. So may you be fully alive.